She stepped onto the Family Feud stage as a contestant, but what she revealed about her life left everyone, including Steve Harvey, staggered in tears. Can a single story shift the dynamics of a game show forever? At just 18, Mia Dawson stood nervously in front of the bright lights and a packed audience, her heart pounding in her chest. Dressed in a simple blue dress, she felt like a diamond in the rough, her excitement mingled with anxiety. Mia was not just playing for herself. She was representing her struggling family, desperate for a stroke of luck that could help them pull through. Her home in small-town Arkansas was filled with love but burdened with hardships. Mia's parents worked long hours at the local diner, barely making ends meet while her younger siblings relied heavily on her for care. The cheerful laughter she often heard from other families in the neighborhood felt like a distant echo. As she took her place beside her teammates, she realized how much she longed for a chance to change their lives. The bright lights and passionate cheers from the audience filled her with determination, but the thought of her family gave her both hope and weight. In the first round, the game unfolded like many before it, with players buzzing in, revealing answers with a mixture of trepidation and excitement. Laughter erupted at the light-hearted banter between Steve and the contestants. Mia contributed answers that were often quirky yet appropriate, showcasing her quick wit, while secretly wishing to be more than just another player in the game. But the atmosphere shifted as they reached the final question of the round. This was where the pressure mounted, and Mia felt the burden of her family's struggles press against her chest. When her turn came, she hesitated, replaying her reality through flashes of her family's challenges. As the question was read, Steve, with his usual charisma, leaned forward, sensing a moment of truth in Mia's expression. "What is something you wish you had growing up?" he asked. The lively laughter faded as the contestants considered their potential responses. Mia's mind raced. What could she say that encapsulated her struggles? Rather than choosing a light-hearted answer, she drew in a deep breath, her voice steadied by the weight of her honesty. "I wish I had a safe place to call home." A silence enveloped the audience. Eyes widened, and the laughter faded into a somber realization. Mia's words hung in the air, and even Steve was momentarily taken aback. He often saw families fight for simple joys on the show, but Mia's response shifted the mood entirely. It wasn't just a game anymore. It was a raw reflection of the challenges faced by many, yet rarely spoken out loud. The impact of her words rippled beyond the studio, revealing the vulnerability behind the smiles. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your comment. And there's something very important. Click the hype button. This helps a lot to deliver this content to more people. It's quick, but it makes all the difference. As the game continued, Mia felt the pressure ease slightly, but her heart still raced. The team rallied around her, sharing not just their answers, but their support. Steve, visibly moved, leaned in closer, maintaining eye contact, his demeanor genuine and attentive. "You know, Mia, that's a powerful wish. We all deserve a place where we feel safe," he said. His voice softened. The audience erupted in applause, empathy flowing as they resonated with her story. The game wrapped up, but for Mia, the real victory was already unfolding. Even if they didn't win the grand prize, she had provided a glimpse into the darker sides of life, the struggles that so many faced. The lights of the studio still gleamed brightly, but it was Mia's light that shone even brighter, a beacon of hope in a challenging world. The question shifted from one of mere competition to the essence of human experience, something Steve recognized without hesitation. As the applause echoed in the studio, Mia couldn't shake the surreal experience of being on the Family Feud stage. The cheers and laughter around her felt like a cocoon, softening the harsh edges of her reality. She had come to play a game, to win prizes, but what had happened in the past hour was much deeper than that. The other contestants, who had initially been strangers, now seemed like an extended family, united not just by the excitement of the game, but by the raw, honest stories they had begun to share. The game resumed, and as the questions shifted and answers bounced around the stage, Mia's heart still raced with the aftermath of her revelation. Her teammates, a lively bunch from nearby Riverside, had rallied around her, laughter and banter flowing freely. There was Derek, the loud and boisterous one who loved cracking jokes, Jenna, soft-spoken but sharp-minded, and Tim, the ever-enthusiastic anchor holding the group together. Each of them had a story of their own, and as they shared their answers, Mia could see the transformation in their camaraderie. "Okay, people, we've got this," Derek hollered, his energy infectious. "Let's keep the good vibes rolling." Jenna chimed in. "Can you imagine the look on our families' faces if we win? They'll think we're celebrities." The group chuckled, and for a moment the weight of the world lifted as they shared dreams and laughter. But as they continued to play, Mia became aware of a subtle undercurrent in the atmosphere. Steve, usually jovial and quick-witted, seemed more contemplative, furrowing his brow during their conversations. He kept glancing at Mia, a flicker of empathy shining in his eyes. She could sense that her story had hit home, not just for her team, but for him, too. Just before the next round began, a break was called, and Steve took a moment to speak directly to Mia. "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" he asked, stepping away from the set. Mia hesitated. Sure," she replied, following him to a quieter corner of the set, the noise of the audience fading behind them. "I just wanted to say, that was a powerful moment." "You sharing your story?" "It takes courage to be that vulnerable, especially on a stage like this," he said, sincerity dripping from each word. "A lot of people are fighting battles we don't see. You reminded them of that today." Mia felt a swell of emotion rise within her. "Thank you, Steve. I just wanted people to see that life can be tough, but we're all in this together. I'm not ashamed of my story." Steve nodded, his expression serious. "You know, sometimes we forget that behind every smile are struggles. You brought that to light today." Mia's heart swelled with gratitude, thinking back to her life, a whirlwind of challenges, from financial pressures to the loss of her father. Knowing that even someone as renowned as Steve Harvey recognized her struggle felt validating. As the break ended, the contestants returned to their spots, energizing the audience for the next round. However, the lightheartedness had changed. Everyone felt the gravity of Mia's story lingering in the air, fusing the contestants with a bond that transcended competition. When the game resumed, Tim leaned closer to Mia and whispered, "You know, we're not just playing for ourselves anymore. We're playing for everyone out there like you." Mia smiled, her heart racing with renewed purpose. The game was still a contest, but it had evolved into something bigger, a collective voice of those who often went unheard. As they moved through the rounds, answering questions and accumulating points, the atmosphere in the studio shifted from mere entertainment to a shared experience of human emotion. Each answer became a testament to resilience, showcasing not just trivia knowledge, but the very essence of overcoming adversity. Yet even with the laughs and cheers, a shadow loomed large in Mia's mind. What would happen after the game? Would their stories continue to resonate? Or would they fade back into silence, retreating into their individual struggles once the cameras stopped rolling? The uncertainty and possibility lingered, igniting a fire within her. In that moment, Mia realized this journey was about more than just the game. It was about connection, healing, and finding strength in vulnerability. And as she stepped back onto the stage, ready for whatever was next, she knew her story was just beginning to unfold. The game continued, but the stakes had transformed. As the questions flew by, Mia could feel the weight of her reality pressing down on her. Each correct answer brought cheers, yet a nagging doubt gnawed at her insides. She could sense the sympathy from the audience and the crew, but could they understand the depth of her struggles? Did they even care beyond the excitement of the game? In the fourth round, the game turned competitive again. As the host, Steve Harvey, called up the next contestant from the opposing team, a familiar face from earlier in the day, Mia felt a pang of anxiety. Lisa, a bright and energetic woman from a well-off family, stepped up to the podium, her smile radiant. The stark contrast between them was hard to ignore. Lisa had shared a story about her luxury vacations and a supportive family that always had her back. Now, as she gave her answer, Mia felt the divide grow deeper. "Survey says," Steve announced, revealing a low score. Lisa's smile faltered, and for just a moment Mia felt a sense of relief. Lisa wasn't invincible after all. The audience's reaction felt mixed. and Mia was surprised to find herself rooting for Lisa's comeback instead of relishing her failure. It was the first time she perceived the other contestants not as rivals, but as fellow human beings, each grappling with their unique journey. The rhythm of the game had picked up, but the question of purpose lingered in Mia's mind. What if they lost? What if they won but failed to truly uplift the voices they had just amplified? Those thoughts spiraled around like a tempest, increasing her anxiety each time the buzzer rang. As the game shifted into the final rounds, Mia's team found themselves neck and neck with Lisa's group. With every point gained, Mia could see determination and desperation flooding the stage, reflected in the glances exchanged between contestants. They were all there for a reason, and suddenly the bright lights and oversized smiles felt oppressive. Conflicts of personal stories were threatening to overshadow the light-hearted game show Mia had once been so excited to join. With the clock ticking down, Mia's team was left with a final question that seemed deceptively simple. The words on the card were easy to read, but each teammate felt the weight of their own experiences. Name a reason people might turn to food for comfort. The answers could come in an avalanche, yet all Mia could think about was the hunger she had felt in her own life, not just for food, but for acceptance and understanding. "Go ahead, Mia," Tim nudged her, thinking she'd come through with a great answer. She looked at her teammates, the audience, and finally at Steve, whose eyes seemed to encourage her to speak her truth. Mia took a deep breath. This wasn't just a game anymore. What if she took this chance to share more than just trivia? "I think people turn to food for comfort, because sometimes it's the only thing that doesn't judge you," she said, her voice steady but soft. "When you don't have a safe place to talk about your pain, food becomes an escape, the only thing that hugs you back." A hush fell over the studio. The gravity of her words sank deep, not just for her team but for everyone watching. It felt as though she had dropped a stone in calm waters, sending ripples throughout the audience. With each silent second that passed, Mia feared she might have gone too far, and yet she could see tears in Steve's eyes, a glimmer of empathy. "Survey says—" Steve broke the tension, and the answer was revealed. Tears flowed freely now, not just from the audience, but from contestants and crew alike. A high score flashed across the screen, but it felt irrelevant in the wake of the emotional truth Mia had shared. The game resumed, but the previous tension had morphed into unity. As the buzzer rang and the next question loomed, Mia knew there was more at stake now. An understanding blossomed, transcending competition and placing humanity at the forefront. The battle was no longer against another team, but a fight for compassion against silence. Mia felt a strange sense of connection swell within her, the echoes of her confession hanging in the air. She had never anticipated having such a profound impact in a place usually reserved for light-hearted competition. The game continued, but her heart raced not from the pressure of the questions, but from the weight of vulnerability she had just embraced. As the next question was read, Mia's teammates were distracted, still processing the emotional gravity of her words. "Name something people do to deal with stress," the host announced. They quickly discussed possible answers, but Mia's mind drifted back to her own life, reminding her of her struggles growing up in a difficult household. The memories surged like a tidal wave, memories of her parents fighting and the frailty of their family unit. "Come on, Mia, we need you," one of her teammates urged. Their call jolted her back to the bright lights of the studio, and she blankly stared at the board, feeling pressure mount. I take walks to clear my head," she finally murmured, too distracted by the aftermath of her earlier revelation to concentrate on the game. "Survey says—" The answer revealed a modest score, which felt like a mere whisper against the earlier tide of emotion. Yet, this was what they needed to stay in the game. As the next question was read aloud, Mia's mind began to wander again. She considered how many people, like her, found solace in the simplest of actions, those small moments of clarity amidst chaos. But then, something shifted. She noticed the audience, many holding their phones, sharing their thoughts in real time to millions watching on social media. The comments streaming in highlighted their empathy and compassion for her story. Comments like, "This girl's so brave and I feel her pain," lit up her screen, sparking a realization. Mia was not alone. Her story resonated deeply, creating a bridge between her past pain and the support she felt in that moment. The next question came with a twist. Name something a friend might do to help you feel better. Mia felt a swell of hope. This was where she could channel her emotions again. The team brainstormed, but Mia sensed that what she wanted to convey could change everything. "Guys, let me go again," she insisted, surprising her teammates with her urgency. They trusted her intuition. She stepped forward, heart beating fiercely, and addressed Steve directly. "Steve, can I say something?" she asked, her voice louder than the Lowry Peabody Studios chatter. His nod indicated she had the floor, but Mia could see the intensity in his demeanor shift. The moment was telling everyone this wasn't just a game anymore. "I think the best thing a friend could do is to just listen," she said, pausing to gather her thoughts. "Being there without judgment, letting someone vent or cry. That's sometimes all you need. Our struggles don't need a solution, just an understanding." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she spoke, the darkness of her childhood once again revealing its grip. But this time she felt unburdened, sharing the experience with a community of strangers who felt her truth. The crowd began to clap softly, and soon the sound swelled into an appreciative roar, filling her with strength. "Survey says—" Steve's voice rang through the studio, and when the board revealed the answer, the claps turned to cheers. The number was high, propelling their score and marking a pivotal moment, not only in the game but in Mia's journey of growth. The audience was drawn into her world, and it felt as if they were no longer separated by the stage's distance, but instead united through shared experiences. In that instant, the game evolved. It became less about winning a prize and more about sharing human connection, acknowledging pain, and celebrating resilience. With the next question approaching, Mia sensed the urgency in the game return. But she was unchanged, her heart had opened, and it wasn't closing again. As she stood with her team, she felt lighter, empowered by her own words and the bond formed with the audience. This felt like a turning point, a moment when the game became a platform for something deeper and truer than any of them might have expected. Mia stood on the Family Feud stage, her heart racing as she faced the spotlight. The earlier moment of vulnerability had stirred something in her, a connection deeper than any game, yet she could feel the tension creeping back in. The next question loomed over her like a storm cloud, and she was acutely aware of the clock ticking down. Her teammates, while supportive, had begun to fidget, glancing anxiously at the scoreboard and each other, sensing the pressure of the game. As Steve readied the question, Mia could see the audience's anticipation. They had shifted from passive spectators to engaged participants in her journey, but she also recognized that they were still here to win. "I need to help my team," she thought, biting her lip. The excitement turned into an urgent pressure. She had to tap into that reservoir of strength she'd just discovered. "Name something people do when they're feeling sad," Steve asked, his tone light yet serious. The question seemed deceptively simple, and Mia felt a wave of emotions crash over her. Think, she whispered to herself, but her mind spiraled back to her life's hardships. She could picture her mother's soothing voice during the darkest days, the comfort of a warm embrace when the world felt cold. But then, Mia's mind ventured into uncharted territory. What could the answer be, she wondered, hoping to reflect on her team's experiences. She took a breath, looked at her teammates, Alex and Jamila, who both nodded, encouraging her to trust her instincts. The intensity in the room surged as Steve motioned for her to answer. Cry?" she blurted out, the uncertainty evident in her voice. The audience reacted with a sympathetic murmur. The board lit up with the answer, and the number was shockingly high. The scoreboard flipped. "Survey says—" Steve's booming voice reverberated through the studio. The audience erupted into applause, echoing the overwhelming emotions that had engulfed Mia. Part of her felt pride, but another part felt the weight of those heartbreaking memories rush through her. The game progressed, yet the tension remained palpable. As the rounds passed, Mia utilized her newfound sense of community to channel her thoughts. Every question forced her to balance the dual roles of competitor and emotional supporter. However, the next inquiry took a sharper turn. Name something you wish you could change about your past. The question hung in the air like a tense silence, and Mia's heart sank. She had always believed that her past had shaped her into who she was, but the thought of venturing into those painful memories was daunting. She glanced at Jamila and Alex, who appeared understanding yet worried. They knew how emotionally charged this moment could be. "Think, Mia. You have to be honest," she urged herself. The clock ticked down as the pressure mounted. "Your story matters." Just then, as she took a breath to respond, the audience shifted, leaning in as if they felt her internal struggle. I wish things had been different for my family," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "I'd change the times I saw my parents fight or when we struggled just to make ends meet." The shift in the atmosphere was palpable. It was as though the walls of the studio could feel her heart. Steve stepped in, his demeanor softening. "That's a powerful answer, Mia. This isn't just a game, it's life. The struggles we endure shape us." The audience burst into applause again, tears glistening in many eyes. Mia felt that familiar warmth swell within her. It was deeply affirming. As the team rallied behind her answer, she realized she had broken a barrier she hadn't known existed within herself. The game had become a vessel of catharsis, a stage for not just answers, but for truths, her truths. There was a shared understanding in that studio that day, a thread of empathy binding everyone together as they all momentarily shared in her history of struggle and resilience. But as the next question approached, Mia knew the intensity wouldn't fade. The competition was heating up, and the stakes felt higher than ever. She felt encouraged yet burdened. Could she channel this momentum into something even more significant, something that honors both her past and her team's future? The atmosphere was electric as silence enveloped the stage, her teammates looking to her for guidance. The stakes were rising again, and the countdown was about to begin. She took a deep breath, knowing she held more than just answers. She held a chance to unite everyone around her through the shared struggles of life. As the host of Family Feud, Steve Harvey stood in the spotlight, observing Mia's transformation from a shy contestant into a beacon of resilience. The air around the studio thickened as the moment of truth approached. Mia felt her heart pounding, blood rushing in her ears, anticipation mingling with the weight of expectation from her family and the audience. She knew that this next question could either propel them to victory or push them into defeat. But as she glanced at her teammates, their hopeful faces ignited a fire within her. "Okay, Mia," Steve encouraged, leaning closer to her, his voice low and steady. "This is it. You've got this. Think back to your experiences." He subtly gestured to the board, where the points would determine their fates. The question flashed on the screen. "Name something that brings families together." Mia felt time slow. Memories flooded her mind. Christmas dinners spent huddled together in their too small apartment, playing board games to escape reality, and the heartfelt conversations around the dinner table after a long day. Family is about more than just blood, she thought. It's about shared experiences, love, and understanding. She inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of every moment. "I know what it is," she declared, her voice steady, but internally she wrestled with the pressure. The stakes were higher than just the game. They represented her family's struggle and the beauty in their survival. "I'm going to say, love." The studio erupted in cheers, their energy palpable as they awaited the audience's response to her answer. Mia's heart raced. She had taken a risk, going against the traditional views of tangible things like food or vacations. The anticipation hung in the air like a heavy fog, and even Steve's authoritative presence seemed to soften, eyes filled with hopeful curiosity. The board lit up, revealing love as the top answer. The audience erupted into applause, and Mia's heart soared. An overwhelming wave of joy surged through her, intertwining with the memory of her struggles. For just a moment, it felt like the entire world was cheering for her, for their shared stories. The scoreboard ticked up, and her team was now at the top, edging closer to victory. But then came the inevitable shift. The next round was about to begin. With the previous question's euphoria still lingering, Steve turned to her again, an unmistakable seriousness shadowing his face. "Mia, you've shown everyone here the power of family," he said, his voice echoing through the studio. "But remember, it's not just about winning." Mia nodded, understanding the depth of his words. This wasn't merely a game show. It was a platform for connection, for recounting the trials that shaped their lives. She had an opportunity to make a difference, to inspire not just her family, but everyone watching. Suddenly, the tension kept mounting. This final round would be brutally competitive. The opposing team was fierce, their strategies honed from years of experience. Mia felt the pressure of their eyes on her again. "I can't let them down," she thought. Just as the next question was about to be revealed, a hush fell over the studio, as if everyone was silently rooting for her. "Name a common topic of disagreement in families," announced the host. That phrase struck a chord deep within Mia. Memories of her parents arguing about bills, life decisions and dreams they had shattered as quickly as they formed, rushed back. But this time, she drew strength from those battles. "It's all part of being human," she whispered to herself, channeling the emotions of her past. With clarity unfolding in her mind, she confidently responded, "Money!" The room shook with noise as she raised her hand, the audience on their feet, applauding her. Their reaction wasn't just for the answer, but for the acknowledgement of a universal issue that permeates family life. The board lit up once more, confirming her answer was spot on. The opposing team faltered as the pressure mounted further. The contest had tipped in their favor, and Mia felt the joy of not just victory, but the understanding that struggles can also bring families closer. Mia's eyes met Steve's, and in that moment, they shared a knowing smile. They were no longer just competitive spirits. They were kindred souls, united by the stories of endurance that life laid before them. She realized the game was merely a reflection of life's realities, a celebration of resilience, connection, and hope. As the game continued, the air in the Family Feud studio buzzed with energy, yet a profound silence lingered in the aftermath of Mia's heartfelt revelation. Steve Harvey, usually a beacon of charisma and charm, felt the weight of her story ripple through the audience. Mia had transformed the playful competition into something that transcended mere entertainment. She had made it deeply personal. With a new question on the board, Steve looked at Mia with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "Name something families fight over during holidays," he asked, his voice steady but his eyes betraying an emotional depth. The studio lights pulsed softly around them, illuminating Mia's determined expression. She thought back to her own family gatherings, filled with laughter, but also inevitable disagreements about family traditions, seating arrangements, and sometimes even unspoken grievances. The memories flooded her mind. The laughter and joy of togetherness always mingled with underlying tensions. "Traditions," she said, catching the audience off guard. The answer resonated, prompting nods and murmurs of recognition throughout the crowd. The board illuminated with her answer, and the applause erupted once again, this time tinged with a sentimentality that enveloped the room. Steve grinned, clearly impressed. "That's right. Nobody messes with Grandma's potato salad recipe, huh?" The laughter that echoed back was warm and genuine, a collective moment of understanding that transcended the contest. For a split second, it felt less like a game and more like a family reunion. As the game progressed, Mia's team built momentum, each question revealing deeper truths about family dynamics. With each correct answer, Mia felt lighter, yet she was keenly aware of the emotional weight of her own narrative intertwining with the game. The ensuing questions felt more like intimate conversations, each answering echoing the personal experiences of families across the nation. However, with the final round approaching, another challenge loomed. The stakes were higher, with the opposing team inching closer to their score. The pressure in Mia's chest tightened. She could sense the tension mount like a thick fog. This was more than just a game. It was a chance to showcase the unity she so desperately wished to inspire in her own life. Faced with a sudden flash of doubt, Mia looked out at the audience. There were families sitting together, a reminder that everyone had struggles, stories, and love intertwined with conflict. She took a breath, centering herself in that moment, focusing on the real fight, the one that mattered. "Think about the real win," she whispered to herself, just before the next question was announced. "What can you bring to the table?" The question echoed in her mind until it became a mantra. Finally, the last question was posed. "Name something that brings families together." After a moment of reflection, Mia, with all the courage she could muster, exclaimed, "Love!" The word hung in the air, almost tangible. The auditorium erupted in applause, and Steve blinked back tears, nodding in appreciation of her insight. The board lit up with the most significant answer, confirming that sometimes the simplest truths resonate the loudest. As the final scores were calculated, her team emerged victorious amid cheers and confetti. But the true triumph was the palpable shift in the atmosphere around them. Mia felt a warmth envelop her, a sense of accomplishment that extended beyond winning a game show. She had transformed a moment of competition into a celebration of the human spirit, a narrative about resilience and connection. Exiting the stage, Mia felt a lightness in her steps. She turned to Steve, who smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting pride. "You did amazing today, Mia. Your story touched everyone, including me. Never forget the impact you have." In that exchange, Mia understood the importance of sharing her truth and how it could resonate with others, turning personal pain into a collective memory. Mia left the studio with a newfound purpose. She realized that the stories we tell shape our lives and the lives of others. It isn't merely about the victories we achieve, but the connections we foster along the way. As she walked out to the bright California sun, she felt transformed, a blend of her past struggles and present triumphs melding into a future filled with hope and clarity. So, what did you think of this story? Leave your comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share with your friends, and don't forget to like. But most importantly, click the hype button. Seriously, this is crucial for the channel to grow and bring more amazing stories like this to you. It only takes a second, but it helps a lot. See you next time.